I got in contact with this guy from Exeter. He's like, hey, man, I know this guy named Nolan. He's from Fresno, but it's a drive for you. It's like, I don't care, man. Give me his number now.
I didn't know that.
And I still have it on this phone today. Like, I have everything when I started treatment. I have everything on the phone. And I called you, and you didn't answer. I was like, oh, man. But, I mean, now I understand why, because you're busy. And you had called me back within an hour. And
Good. Thank goodness. Welcome to Into Action, brought to you by Touchstone Recovery Center. This episode, we're speaking to Juan Magana. Juan is an alumni of Touchstone. He's a man in recovery. He's becoming a pretty good friend of mine. It's been a pleasure getting to see the progress that he's made over the last year or so. It's cool to see when people come into the program and how quickly they grow and how quickly they like find themselves. You know, it's so getting to know Juan has been really fun. Welcome, Juan. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Nolan. And yourself?
I'm good. So tell me a little bit about like when you were younger, and you obviously, like most of us, when we're growing up, we see alcoholism, we have addiction in our family. A lot of us struggle when we're young. Is any of that true for you?
It was mostly seeing my father. He drank a lot.
Yeah.
But he slowly, by the years, he started slowing down and stopped drinking. And I kind of seen that a little bit, but I'm not going to say my addiction took upon on what he did.
Sure.
And so, you know, I was growing up, I was playing sports, started getting into marijuana. Marijuana was my first thing.
How old were you when you started doing that?
I was in 6th grade, probably about 12 years old.
Okay.
And so as I continued on, you know, I liked getting high. Felt great. And then throughout high school, started involving in my sports. And I think
like it was getting in the way. Like, is that what you mean?
Like it was, I was like enjoying it while I was playing sports.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And I loved it, especially when I was wrestling. I felt like I was Superman.
Huh.
Like I felt like I was unstoppable. But sooner or later, my junior year is when I started trying cocaine. But didn't really get into it deeply after I graduated high school.
Okay. So during high school, were you drinking a lot, or was it mainly just marijuana and occasionally cocaine?
It was marijuana and cocaine.
Okay. I know for a lot of people, myself included, like the stimulants like cocaine always came into the picture when people were drinking, you know? And I think that's true for a lot of people that come through Touchstone is like it's really tough to stop doing drugs when alcohol's involved because it like lowers our inhibitions and it makes us, we can't say no when we have that buzz going from alcohol. So you didn't drink much at all?
No, I didn't drink too much in high school. I didn't like alcohol at the time. It was right after high school. Mm-hmm. I found a few people that were older than me, and they were starting to get me to drink. And then I started finding the alcohol too. I was like, hey, I need this in my life too.
Yeah.
So I started drinking, started progressing a little bit. As I was drinking more, marijuana was coming along more, buying ounces. You know, those two things were coping pretty well. Then after a year later, I got tired of it. Cocaine came along, definitely. And I started using cocaine, abusing it. I slowly started with maybe half a gram. And then sooner or later, I was progressed to a full gram. And then as time was coming, it was just like once or twice a day. And then it continued to grow. It progressed even more. I started going up to an 8-ball.
What's that like back? What's that now? I guess I have no way to know the price, but I would assume that's like $100 to $200 a day.
Yeah, it could be. 8-ball was about like maybe roughly $150.
Yeah, it's crazy how we don't really think about the finances and like how much money we're spending on are on self-medicating until after we get clean. 'Cause I know when I stopped, actually, I think while I was in treatment, at one point they made us do a list of, like, do a financial ledger of all the money we've ever spent on drugs or alcohol. And at that time I was like 20. I think I was 24, maybe 23. So I was young. I had been using for like 5-6 years. And I remember writing that out, writing how much I spent on beer, how much I spent on marijuana, how much I spent on opiates, how much I spent on, I mean, you name it. I just went down the list, and it was substantial.
Yeah.
Substantial. So I can imagine spending $150 a day. That adds up, man. That adds up. And then what really gets me is when a person is wanting to stop and wanting to come to treatment, or wanting to get a therapist, or wanting to get medical insurance so they can go to treatment, like all of a sudden you can't come up with that $150 a day all of a sudden. You know, when we did that for years in some cases, like we figured it out. We figured out a way to stay high. How come we can't try that hard to figure out a way to stay clean and to get sober? It's something I think about a lot. But so how long were you using on a daily basis?
So as like you said, it was expensive, and not to mention, like, you've been sober for a while. Prices went up because of COVID.
Yeah.
As you know, you're speaking of prices. I mean, it went up to like $220, and you know,
So during COVID, drug prices went up.
yes,
Wow. I did not know that.
yeah, definitely.
Huh.
I mean, but as you were saying too, I was started using, you know, like I said, an 8-ball. Then it started getting to a point I was using at least 3 or 4 times a week, but using an 8-ball or plus. And you know, it was starting to get real bad in maybe in 2020 to no, I take that back. It was 2017 to 2021.
So for 4 years?
For 4 years, 5 years, I was going pretty bad. And, you know, as I was going, I was like, dude, I need a life change. I'm tired of using cocaine. So, you know, I thought the greatest way to get rid of it was finding a girlfriend. And it happened about almost a year. Found one, went away for a year.
What do you mean? You stopped using?
I stopped using cocaine, only drank alcohol.
Was it like you got away from that circle you were running in and just hung out with her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ran away from that circle, ran away from those people that I was using with, and I stuck with her. But now going back, you know, alcohol started becoming an issue. I was drinking more. It was progressing. I was not getting things done around the house. So then sooner or later, we were together for a year. I got right back on fast. And this time, just stopping for a year, my dopamine grew so fast. Like, I started losing stuff. I couldn't pay for my bills. I was starting to run late on my rent. Just all kinds of things I couldn't afford no more.
Yeah.
I was stealing money, you know.
Using cocaine like that on a daily basis. I mean, I use my share of it. I don't think I might have done it a few days in a row on an occasion, but using it on a daily basis like that for a long time, did you have negative health effects? Like, what did you have any side effects that you noticed, like nosebleeds?
Yes,
there has to be.
There was nosebleeds,
Yeah.
definitely nosebleeds.
Did you lose a lot of weight?
I was losing weight. It's a big factor. I was going to work still, but I would get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And I had coworkers telling me like, "Hey man, you're losing weight." I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm hitting the gym." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not hitting the gym." You know.
I know most people on stimulants, like we don't eat. We don't eat anything. So were you like eating
when
a
I was
meal a
on
day?
coke, I could not eat.
Yeah.
I would gag and want to throw it up, and I would force myself to eat. So when my ex-girlfriend at the time, she was like, "Oh, here's the food."
You're like hiding that you were
and
using.
I was just like, I would pretend I would eat, and I'll eat a little bit, but I couldn't eat. So when she walked away or something,
Yeah.
it was time to throw it in the trash. And then I had my substance in my pocket, ready to use.
Yeah, yeah. Got it. So during those 4 years, did you have any other like negative consequences that came your way, like losing a job? You said you already talked about financial difficulties, family issues. What
I
else popped
started,
up?
like you're saying, family. Yes, I started having family issues. My dad figured it out. I started getting paranoid, and my dad caught me one time driving my car back and forth because I thought someone was like outside of me watching me behind my car, and I was just like, my dad just caught me outside the window and looked at me what I was doing. And I got embarrassed, and I thought that was enough, but it wasn't enough. I kept to continue and use. And my dad let me know the next day, you're putting the stuff in your nose. I was like, no, I'm not. You're tripping.
Yeah.
So, and then, that went on. My dad wasn't like, trying to bring me down or anything, but he was trying to be a father. But as I continued to use, I started missing family events. And one time I decided to buy an 8 ball, buy a whole bottle of whiskey. And it was my first niece we had in our family. And I decided to go use and drink. Everybody was calling me like, where you at? And I was like, I'm not going to Christmas Eve. You guys are on your own this year. And after I was done with my 8 ball that night, I continued to go buy another one. So then, as my family was there at the house, I was like, I couldn't go home. I slept in my car.
On Christmas Eve?
What year? On Christmas Eve, night.
Yeah.
I was too loaded to be around my family.
Yeah, I think that's normal. I mean, we usually, especially when you know what you're doing is wrong, like you don't want to be around your friends and family that care about you when you're doing the wrong thing, you know. So a lot of it, I think that's true for a lot of us. We end up isolating and avoiding the people we love, and we become closet users, you know. Like I know for me and for a lot of my friends, when we started out, we would use together. We'd be going out to the bars and we'd be, having barbecues and going to the beach and, we're having fun. And then slowly, because I always would party a little bit harder than everyone else, the friends kind of dwindled. They'd all grow up, get married, have kids, get a job. And then, so you'd lose one friend and two friends. And then eventually you're by yourself using in your apartment, just got fired from a job and like you're hiding it from the people that care about you. And it becomes like a sad story really quick. When it started out over the course of a couple of years, right? When it started out, like you were having fun. It was like a good thing. I'm gonna go to the beach with my buddies and go to Harry's bar and sleep on the sand. And, a couple years down the road, if you're an addict like me, you're in a hotel room by yourself, looking out the blinds at 2 a.m., wondering if the cops are coming for you, you know? Yeah. So sleeping in your car, I've been there. It sucks.
Yep.
Yeah. So when did you decide that you wanted to try to stop? Like, it sounds like you had that on your mind for a while, but when did you take action and like do something about it?
So like when I took action, it was just my last time because as I figured out, when I came in here, recovery wasn't about like finding something or, as a person to replace for the drug. And so, 1 week I went on a bender. I went a 3-4 days bender and bloody nose. And I kept going, wouldn't stop. So the last time I used, I came back from a reffing. I had made like $320.
Wrestling?
Reffing for football.
Okay.
And I had this young kid with me, and he's like, hey, man, let's go make a run and sell these carts. And I was like, yeah. He's like, I'll give you $80 for gas, and I'll buy you food. And I was like, all right on, you got it. Well, I don't know what he want to go do. You think he want to go take an opiate? He came back fucked up. Well, he left another $320 around there, maybe around there. I'm not saying, but it was more than $300. And so I ended up with like almost $700 that day. And it was my last day, and I was want to go buy. And I was supposed to go eat at Denny's with my ex-girlfriend. Instead of, she was like, I thought you were going to be in bed, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, no, I couldn't sleep and blah, blah. No, it was just,
Your priority shifted. You went and bought more Coke.
yeah. And so then we had a conversation. She's like, I feel like you're using. And I was just like, no, I'm not. And then she said that she was going to drug test me. And that's when everything switched up. And I was just like, how am I going to pass this drug test? I'm going to lose everything. So I told her the truth that night. And
What do you mean? You were living with her?
I was still living with her. I was like, she knew something was odd off of me. Like, I was acting weird. I wasn't who I was a year ago, you know?
Yeah.
And so I told her the truth. And she's like, well, you're an addict. You need help. And as addicts, we refused that at the time in the beginning.
Sure.
And I was just like, no, I can stop. Take my keys, take my credit cards, everything. I'll stop. Well, I got on the phone and I was just like, I don't want to lose my relationship. I got on the phone. I started calling all these places and they're like, oh, we only take Medi-Cal. I'm like, dude, I have Anthem insurance from my mom. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I have good insurance. How can you not take me? So I'm just like, damn. So I was about to give up already. And I was like, screw it. I'm just going to go keep using. And so I got in contact with this guy from Exeter. He's like, hey, man, I know this guy named Nolan. He's from Fresno, but it's a drive for you. It's like, I don't care, man. Give me his number now.
I didn't know that.
And I still have it on this phone today. Like, I have everything when I started treatment. I have everything on the phone. And I called you. And you didn't answer. And I was like, oh, man. But, I mean, now I understand why, because you're busy. And you had called me back within an hour. And
Good. Thank goodness.
I still remember the conversation from you. You asked me a lot of questions. I was like, I asked you, do you guys take cocaine for substance, treat people there? And they're like, yeah, we do. Take anything. At some point, you know, what level of care you need.
Yeah.
And you told me, how's your sleep and blah, blah, and all this. And I was like, dude, my sleep's fine. I'm able to go to bed. And, you know, I just kept going and you were like, well, you're a lucky one. You don't have a hard time to go to bed. I was like, oh, okay. Well, people have a hard time going to bed if they're using drugs. Like, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's really common for like irregular sleep patterns. It's usually pretty common.
Yeah, and then as now I'm working in treatment, and now I'm figuring out why.
Yeah.
And as I continued, you know, I got into treatment now here in Touchstone. But it wasn't just, you know, like, you know, I was lost. I don't know what I was doing here. Like, what was it about, what to do, how to get things done. I was doing everything the opposite.
Weren't you living still down in Tulare County and driving?
Yeah, from Porterville.
Yeah. You drove from Porterville?
I drove from Porterville about maybe 6 weeks straight.
That's an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
At least.
Especially that time because of traffic. So
I would come to PM IOP?
PM IOP. So what I would do, I would get off work, I would change and bounce. I'd be here by like 5:10. Unless if there was a car accident or something would hold me back, I'll be here just on time. So I did that about for 6 weeks.
I remember it was working at first, like you were doing pretty well. And then you had a slip, right?
Yeah, I had my first slip.
Yep. And then you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you decided like, all right, I got to do it different. So you moved into sober living.
Yeah.
Yep.
So before that, it was actually I had 2 slips before I entered sober living. I remember my first one, I was home by myself, isolating. No one was at my home. I used, and I was like, you know, actually, I'm going to try an experience. I was like, you know what? I know I can drink without cocaine. Didn't work so well for me.
Yeah, that doesn't really work for many people.
And, you know, and I was told once as my group session here at Touchstone, and that guy was right.
Yeah. Yeah, it lowers your inhibitions, you know. Makes it really easy to say yes when you got a few beers in you.
Yeah.
I got to commend that decision because so many people will be in treatment in like a low level of care. So IOP or maybe even the day program, the PHP program. And if they relapse, like they're not willing to change anything, you know. There always has to be some type of intervention, and we have to do something as as a clinical team to make sure that we address the problem and change something. So whether it's recommend a sober living, whether it's recommend a higher level of care, increase outside self-help groups like AA meetings, there has to be something that the person does differently. Because, I mean, you know, you do the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same damn result. So for you to slip up and then say, all right, I'll move into sober living. I remember when you did that, and I was like, he's going to be all right, because you moved up here from Porterville, and then you showed up to group every day. It was a good move. A lot of people resist that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you did that. And that was when?
That was
Like January?
No, that was in November.
November of last year.
Yeah, on Black Friday.
So it's been about a year.
Gonna be about a year now.
So what's your sobriety date?
So my sobriety is 11/25/22.
Coming up.
So
good.
As you're speaking about, like, you know, going to sober living, you know, I was afraid. You know, you were talking about how high level of care. I was scared to tell Lewis how much I used, because that last time I used 7 grams, and I thought he was gonna tell, hey man, you need to go to inpatient. And I was just like, I am not going to inpatient. But you know how you're saying to refuse.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will go to sober living. I'll try that out. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a wonderful experience. Good structure there. Good house manager. I mean, there's so much wonderful things that sober living did for me.
Were you at the Colony?
Yeah,
with Kenny?
Kenny.
No, he's a good house manager. So you completed the program in early 2023. So it's been what? We hired you a few months back, and now you're the house manager at our Visalia Sober Living. So how's it going? Like, how are you staying sober now? What are you doing?
How am I staying sober now? Well, it was kind of an adjustment, you know, because, you know, I did it because purposely I volunteered to move to Visalia, but I wanted to be halfway home and halfway to work, and it works out perfectly. But as you're saying, now I took a position of being a house manager. It's a lot of work.
Is it?
It's a lot of work. You know, because I was kind of falling off going to meetings, seeing my sponsor, and I was like, I'm gonna trust the process. You know,
Yep.
I made this decision, but now I was like telling myself, like, I'm gonna get back on. It's fine. So I went back to step work, slowly but surely. Started seeing my sponsor. Started going back to my men's group here in Fresno. You know, it's kind of hard to leave a spot that you found a fellowship. You know what I mean?
Yep. I found my home group in Visalia, and that's still, you know, even though I go to more meetings in Fresno than I do in Visalia now, that's my home group. You know, we encourage people at Touchstone to go to meetings during the day. Like, if you need to take an hour, go to a meeting, you can do that. You know that? Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Yeah, I knew that.
I need to do that more often, like during the workday, just especially if you're having a bad day, you know, go to Sierra Fellowship real quick. It's a trip when we go now, as opposed to like 2 years ago, I would go and I might see a Touchstone client, maybe, but like now when we go, you always see at least 3 or 4 every time I go to a meeting. The last one I went to, there was probably 8 Touchstone clients and alumni that were there. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So as the house manager at the Visalia Sober Living, has it been tough seeing people like, you know, or people that just come in relapse? Is that hard or?
Oh, I can't really say much on that because I haven't had a relapse in the house yet.
You had one right off the bat.
Oh yeah.
You're right though. You haven't had many. It's only been what, 4 months? So
yeah, 4 months there.
That's pretty good though. You know, to only have one in 4 months. That's pretty good. You must be doing something right. Yeah. Do you like being the house manager?
Oh, I love being the house manager. It keeps me on my toes, you know, because as I learned being with Kenny, you guys come check the houses, and you know, and we want to make those houses as beautiful as possible. And then, you know, last night we had a house meeting. I came in, and you know, I'm not gonna come in with the anger. You know, I was a little bit upset and mad, but I went in my room and processed it. You know, learns how to show love and tolerance, as I learned from Lewis. you know, like I was mad. I wanted to ring them. I was like, you know what, guys? We had our meeting. I was like, hey guys, I'm seeing this. Let's fix it. You know, let's just fix the little things and we'll be fine. The only problem we have is in our kitchen. We had dishes in there. We had stuff on the counter. And I was like, hey man, we just need to fix this. Be better on our chores and we'll be fine. That's all I asked for.
Yeah, that's a good move. Like when you're in a sober living, you know, you're living at your house, there's 7 guys. A lot of them, there's 8. So a couple of them, there's 10. And, you know, having little messes, it's kind of sounds stupid, but having little messes here and there, it really bugs people. And the people are paying their rent. Like, you know, it's their house. So to keep it clean and to have like structure and rules, it's important. I think also because, do you make the guys read that book, Make Your Bed?
Oh, no, I don't.
No? Have you read it?
No, I have never heard of that book in my life.
Okay, you should read it. I bought one for every sober living, but maybe I didn't take one down to Visalia yet. But it's basically just says like how important it is to start your day the right way. So like you wake up, you make your bed, you have a routine, you do the little things, starting with making your bed when you get up in the morning. You know why that's important. It sounds stupid, and for years I didn't do it, but like I know how important that is now because you wake up, you have this, you have like guidelines to the way you want to live your life. I want my bedroom to look nice. I want to show up to work on time. I want to stay sober. Like there's things you have to do to achieve those goals. Pretty damn easy one is to make your damn bed when you wake up. But anyway, you should have all the guys. You know what you should do is when one of the guys at the house doesn't make their bed, make them read the book. It's their and then give you a book report.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah.
But it's a good point what you're bringing up about the bed. I watched a video one time. This guy was from the military. I couldn't remember exact words, but I do remember at the end. And you were kind of saying if you're having a bad day, make your bed. But at the end of the day, you get to go back to a happy place that you made your bed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I've got one more question for you, though. So what would you tell somebody that's struggling, somebody that needs help, that's out there still using? What would you tell them? Give them some advice.
So if I were to give somebody advice, I would just like, hey, man, you need some help, you know, but you got to take the suggestions. Whatever they tell you, do. Because it does work. But a lot of people think, and I would tell them as well, is just, you know, just going to treatment is just not where you're going to get fixed. There's a aftermath after that. You know, you got to go to meetings. You got to go to do step work, and it helps people out. And you see the change in them. So if my biggest thing that I learned, whatever I tell you and take the suggestions, just do it. It's going to help you on the long run because that's what's happened for me. And my biggest suggestion was sober living. That's one big key is after you get out of detox or residential, go to sober living. It'll help you.
Yeah, doing something different is always necessary. Changing your normal. So whether that's where you live, who you hang out with, your day-to-day. And then, like you said, I think it's a program that is lifelong. So like just because I graduated from Touchstone last month doesn't mean like I'm cured. I don't have to worry about being an addict anymore. I've made that mistake. You know, like when I got out of treatment, out of inpatient treatment, I thought, they gave me a little coin. I'm good. Mm-hmm. I was drinking like within 2 weeks. And a lot of people make that mistake, but it's a program that we have to maintain. We have to like address daily because it's always there waiting for us, you know. Mm-hmm. But thanks for being on, man.
Thank you, Nolan. Appreciate you.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.